You know, I had a conversation recently with a dear friend of mine. Let's call her Margaret. Margaret's in her 70s, sharp as a tack, and she's always been the kind of person who plans ahead. But when we started talking about wills and inheritance, she got quiet. Then she said something that stuck with me. I don't want my kids fighting over my things when I'm gone, but I don't even know where to start. And that's when it hit me. So many of us spend our lives working hard, building a home, maybe even putting a little something away for the kids. But when it comes to making sure that legacy is protected, well, life gets busy, or it feels overwhelming, or we just don't want to think about it. But here's the truth. The best gift you can give your children isn't just what you leave behind. It's making sure they don't lose it to legal battles, taxes, or family disputes. That's why today, we're talking about the 5 things you must do now to protect your children's inheritance. And don't worry, this isn't about complicated legal jargon or sitting in some stuffy office for hours. These are simple, actionable steps you can take to make sure your wishes are clear, your family's taken care of, and your hard-earned legacy stays exactly where it belongs. Let's get started. First up, get your will in order. Now I know what you might be thinking. I've been meaning to do that for years. Or maybe, I don't have enough to make a will worth it. But here's the thing. A will isn't just for the wealthy. It's for anyone who wants to decide where their belongings go, whether it's a family heirloom, a savings account, or even your home. Without a will, the state decides, and that can lead to delays, fees, and family tension you never intended. Take my neighbor, Tom. He always said his son would get his vintage record collection. It was their shared passion. But when Tom passed unexpectedly, there was no will. That collection, it got tied up in probate for months, and by the time his son got it, half the records were damaged in storage. A simple will, even a basic one, could have saved all that heartache. So how do you start? You don't need a fancy lawyer, though it's great if you can. There are affordable online services, or your local senior center might offer free workshops. The key is to put it in writing, name an executor you trust, and update it every few years. Which brings me to my next point. Number 2, talk to your family. Now this might be the hardest step for some of us. Money and inheritance can be awkward to discuss. We don't want to seem morbid or stir up drama. But silence? That's where misunderstandings happen. I've seen families torn apart because one sibling thought they'd get the family cabin, while another was promised the same thing in private. Here's how to make this easier. Frame it as a family meeting, not a final wishes talk. Say something like, I'm getting my affairs in order to make things simpler for everyone, and I'd love your input. Be clear about your decisions, even if it's not what everyone wants. And here's a pro tip. If you're leaving unequal shares, explain why in a letter. Maybe one child helped care for you, or another already received help earlier. Transparency now prevents resentment later. Remember, this isn't just about money, it's about peace of mind. When everyone knows the plan, your kids can focus on you instead of paperwork when the time comes. And speaking of paperwork, we've covered 2 big steps already, creating a will and having that family conversation. But there are 3 more critical steps to lock down your legacy, and one of them involves a mistake nearly half of seniors make. So let's keep going, because your family's future is worth every bit of effort. You know, after we talked about wills and family conversations in part 1, I heard from so many of you in the comments, stories about your parents' heirlooms, your own planning journeys, and even a few confessions like, okay, I've put this off long enough. And that's exactly why we're here today, to tackle the next crucial steps to protect what you built. Because this isn't just about paperwork, it's about love. Love that outlasts us. So let's pick up where we left off. Step 3 is something I wish more people knew about, because it's a game changer for keeping your family out of court and your wishes private. Number 3, consider a living trust. Now before your eyes glaze over, this isn't just for the wealthy. A trust is like a safe for your assets. And here's why it matters. Unlike a will, a trust doesn't go through probate. That means no court delays, no public records, and no chance for distant relatives to swoop in with claims. Your children get what you left them quickly and privately. Let me tell you about my cousin Linda. Her mom set up a trust years ago, and when she passed, Linda and her brother had access to the family home and bank accounts in days. No lawyers, no waiting. Meanwhile, their neighbor's family spent 18 months in probate over a simple will. 18 months of stress, legal fees, and frozen assets. A trust could have saved all that. How do you start? Talk to an estate attorney. Many offer free consultations. Or use a reputable online service if your situation's straightforward. You'll name a trustee, usually yourself, then a child or trusted friend, and transfer key assets, like your home or investments, into the trust's name. It sounds technical, but it's just one afternoon of effort for a lifetime of security. Now, step 4 is where even the most organized folks stumble. Plan for long-term care costs. Here's the hard truth. Nursing homes or in-home care can wipe out an inheritance faster than anything. I've seen families lose homes they'd owned for generations because mom needed care and no one planned ahead. But there are ways to protect your assets without depriving yourself of care. First, look into long-term care insurance. Yes, it's an extra bill now, but compare that to $8,000 a month for a nursing home later. Another option, Medicaid asset protection trusts. These let you qualify for Medicaid while shielding your home or savings for your kids. But you've got to set these up early, like 5 years early in some states, so don't wait. And here's a little-known tip. Gifting money strategically while you're alive can reduce your taxable estate. The IRS lets you give up to $18,000 per child per year tax-free. That's $18,000 per child per year tax-free. That's $36,000 if you and your spouse both gift. Over a decade, that's a huge chunk of your estate passed on smoothly. No strings attached. Finally, and this one's so simple it's often overlooked, step 5, organize your documents. I mean really organize them. Because here's what happens all too often. A parent passes, and the kids are left digging through drawers, searching for passwords, or begging banks for access. Grief is hard enough without adding a scavenger hunt. Here's your action plan. Grab a binder or a fireproof box. Put in your will, trust papers, life insurance policies, deeds, passwords, and a list of accounts. Even the Netflix subscription. Then tell 2 trusted people where it is. Maybe your executor and a backup. And please, label everything clearly. I once helped a friend sort through her dad's files, and we found a key taped to a note that just said, "For the boat." Turns out he'd sold the boat 15 years earlier. This isn't about expecting the worst. It's about honoring your life's work, because every paper you organize, every plan you make, is a love letter to your family. It says, "I cared enough to make this easy for you." Now we've covered all 5 steps, from wills to trusts, care costs to that all-important paperwork. But in part 3, we're going to tie it all together with the one thing that makes everything else fall into place. Hint, it's not what you'd expect. So stay with me, we're almost there. Over these last 2 videos, we've talked about wills, trusts, long-term care planning, all the practical things we need to do to protect our children's inheritance. But today, I want to talk about something deeper. Because when I asked my friend Margaret, the one I mentioned at the very beginning, what she really wanted to leave her kids, she didn't talk about money or property. She said, "I want them to remember our family stories, to know where they came from." And that's when I realized the greatest inheritance we can leave isn't in our bank accounts, it's in our hearts. So let's talk about the 5th thing you must do, the one that makes all the legal stuff we've discussed truly meaningful. Leave a legacy beyond money, because years from now, your grandchildren won't treasure your stock portfolio. They'll treasure the recipe book you wrote in your own handwriting, the video of you telling stories about your first job, or the letters you wrote about what life was like when you were young. Here's how to start. First, tell your stories. Record them on your phone, write them down, or even better, sit down with your family and share them over dinner. Don't worry about being perfect, just talk. Tell them about how you met your spouse, the lessons you learned from your parents, the mistakes you made, and how you bounced back. These are the gifts that keep giving long after we're gone. Second, document your family history. Dig out those old photos and label them. Not just Christmas 1985, but this was the year Uncle Joe burned the turkey and we all ended up eating pizza. Add names, dates, and little notes. Future generations will thank you. And if you're feeling tech savvy, scan them or upload them to a family tree website. It's easier than you think. But here's the most important part. Pass down your values. Money can be spent, homes can be sold, but the way you lived your life, the kindness you showed, the wisdom you earned, that's what shapes your family for generations. So write a letter to your grandchildren about what matters most to you. Or create a simple family creed, a few lines about what your family stands for. Maybe it's we always help each other, or we don't quit when things get hard. I'll never forget the day my grandmother handed me a letter she'd written me when I turned 18. I was 45 by the time I found it in an old box, and her words about resilience, about choosing happiness, hit me like a ton of bricks. It was like she was right there with me, decades later, still guiding me. That's the kind of legacy that never fades. Now, I know this might feel overwhelming. Legal documents, family meetings, recording stories. It's a lot. But here's my challenge to you. Pick one thing to do this week. Just one. Maybe it's calling your lawyer about a will. Maybe it's sitting down with your phone and recording a memory. Because every single step you take is an act of love. A way of saying, you matter to me even when I'm not here. And if you've already started, share your progress in the comments. Tell us what you've done or what you're planning to do, because your story might inspire someone else to take that first step. So here's to protecting what matters, not just for our children, but for their children, and for all the generations to come. Because when we plan with love, we don't just leave an inheritance, we leave a legacy. And that, my friends, is truly priceless. If this series helped you, hit that like button. It means more people will see it. And if you haven't already, subscribe to our channel for more honest, heartfelt conversations about living well at every age. Until next time, keep making those memories. They're the best investment you'll ever make.